Hi, this is Margaret again, and now we're going to look at the standard layer names in a drawing. So this is PowerPoint number 2D, National CAD Standard CAD layers. And let's look at this first. When you look at drawings from architects and contractors, you might sometimes see, believe it or not, hundreds of layers in a drawing. So it's critical that we all follow the same guidelines or we will never find what we're looking for. And I have set up your title block for you for this class. It already has some layers already set up with the right layer names. So for the most part, you won't have to make new ones, with a couple of exceptions that I'll tell you about later. In the name of your layer in your CAD drawing, it's kind of similar to sheet numbers in that we go from general to specific. So we'll start with A for architecture, and then we'll go to what kind of architecture thing is it? Like, is it a wall? Those first 5 characters are required. So you have to have the discipline. You have to say whether it's architecture or plumbing or electrical or whatever your category is. And you have to have the major group. So you have to say it's a wall or a door or something like that. Optionally, especially if you have a complicated drawing, you can add some minor groups. So for example, if you were drawing a wall in your drawing that was an existing wall that was going to be demolished, you would use a different layer for that wall, and you might call it A for architecture. I'm going to show you right here. A for architecture, wall, because it's a wall, and then demo, because that's the layer for the wall that's going to be demolished. Here is a list of the discipline codes that you will use for your layers, and you'll notice they're real similar to the sheet discipline designators. These are from the National CAD Standard. And here are just a few of the major groups that you might encounter, walls and doors and so forth. I'm going to show you where you can find all of those in a minute. And then here are some minor groups. And then if you want to get even more fine, you can add a status. So is this existing? Is it going to be demoed? You can put demo in this position also. Is this just temporary? And so on and so forth. The layers for dimensioning and that sort of thing, you would think they'd be called dimension, but they're not. They're called anno. Anno is short for annotation, and annotation is any kind of writing in words that you put onto your drawing. So you have the geometry, your lines, your shapes, and then you have the annotation, your notes, your dimensions, your symbols. So here is a page out of our book showing some of the annotation layers. And I won't talk about plotting right now. We'll talk about plotting a little bit when we talk about lines and line weights later on. Now, I want to show you a couple of resources that are in your lectures folder. One of them is this thing right here. So we've been in lecture 2 talking about layers, and here's an Excel spreadsheet labeled AP2 that I put together for you. It shows some of the layers that you might find in a typical plan set for residential. And it looks like this. So I have listed the type of thing that it is, the name of the layer, what line type is required, and what line weight is required. And I've sorted these 2 different ways depending on what you're looking for. So notice this list says alphabetical by layer name. if you're trying to figure out what the heck A-anodims is, you can look it up here and it will tell you, oh, that's dimensions in text. Then further down in this sheet, I have sorted these alphabetically by element. So if you're trying to figure out what is the name of a layer for dimensions, you can look along this list. Ah, there's dimensions. Okay, there's what the layer is called. Or if you wanted to figure out what do you call a footing, go down to the F's, there's footing, and it looks like that has to be a foundation footing, and it has to use a dashed line type, and it has to be relatively thin, 0.25 millimeter. So that's that. You might find this list fairly useful for you, and it might save you some time if you're making your own drawings. To get more complicated, also in our lectures folder is this thing, which is the actual layer standards from the National CAD Standard, and it's pretty involved. Here it is, and if you open this spreadsheet, you notice at the bottom there are 3 separate tabs under which you can search. Right now we have the discipline designators open, and even that is a long list. Here's A for architectural, but if you're doing a big commercial job, here are some subdivisions under architectural, and then there are a number of other discipline designators. You can see there are a whole bunch of them. M for mechanical, and then some subheadings under mechanical. P for plumbing, but then there's some more stuff. So those are the first letter in the layer name. Then if you want to look for, okay, what is the major group? Is this a wall? Is this a door? What do I call it? Here's the major group, and this is a big old long list too. It just goes forever. May I suggest that if you know the name of a thing but you're not sure what it might be called in this list, you use that keyboard shortcut Control F. So hold the Control key and press the F key for find, F for find, and the find box will come up. And let's say you're trying to figure out what do you call a door. So you can just type D-O-O-R for door and click find, and it will take you to, oh, okay, well that's pretty straightforward. You call it door. What about window? I can't figure out what to call my window layer. And it says, we're sorry, there's no layer called window. So you might remember, I've heard people call that glazing. I think I'll search under glazing and find, aha! So there is glazing. You have to know that that means windows. And the name of the layer is A-glaze. All right. Then the next tab over here along the bottom is the minor groups names. So here are also many, many, many minor groups. Demo, existing, future, and a whole bunch of other stuff. You could also do Control F to find what you were looking for in this list. So I just give this to you as a resource in case you find yourself in an office where you need a lot of detail layer names and you need to look them up. Otherwise, I recommend for a simple plan set, you just use this layers in a typical architectural plan set. There you go.